I was getting jumped by the goats, so I had to pause real quick uh, and come back to the podcast. Goats get wild because when I put them inside, I give them a little bit of corn, just enough so they can get lured and come to me and go inside their pen, right? Because they're always foraging. They don't like going inside. And yeah, they try to jump me. So what I was talking about is, I always tell people, if I can conquer the desert and dry farm here, a polyculture of agave, cactus, different agave plant member family or family members, palms, fruit trees, all this different nice ecosystem type of farm that works together with the native grasses and shrubs and trees. I can do that anywhere. You know what I mean? If I could do that shit here on 2 inches in the Mojave Desert, I can do that in Northern California. I can do that on the coast of California. I chose here for a reason, right? Like, my family has a lot of land in Northern California. I mean, I got family in Oregon. I got family on the East Coast. Lots of places that have a lot more water, a lot more, you could say, foresty climates, coastal climates, urban climates. And you would say, why the fuck would you choose the desert first, right, to develop this stuff if you've got all these different areas to choose from? And it's like, because I knew if I did it here in the desert, I could do this anywhere, right? And for instance, like a lot of this land was cheap here in High Vista. Now, not so more. Like when I first bought land here, I could pick up land for around sometimes even $500 an acre. Because sometimes, like in this one case, I'll give you an example. Like this lawyer that I try to buy a piece of land from, he was this lawyer in New York who had inherited land in the Mojave Desert. He never even has stepped foot in California. He didn't give a fuck about California. So when I was talking, this is why you got to talk to people too. When you're on the, negotiating deals, you got to make people your friend. You know what I mean? Like if you're new to sales, like you got to fucking make people your friend, and your friends will buy infinite amount of stuff from you once, if they're financially well off, right? But yeah, that's a sidetrack. The point that I'm getting at here is I was just trying to converse with this guy and make him my homie so I could try to get a deal, right? As shallow as that seems, I'm sorry. But always gotta pay under what the fuck. I'm trying to teach you guys here too, and women, whatever the fuck you refer to yourself. We like everyone here. Um, but anyways, so I'm like, okay, how do I get a good deal? Talking to the homie and stuff, right? And then I'm telling him, oh man, I think he wanted for 5 acres to $5,000, right? And that was around, oh no, $4,000, which was around $800 an acre, right? And then one, I didn't have $4,000 a decade ago. You know what I mean? I was like fresh out of college, broke as fuck. Uh, had no money. I'm like 50 grand in debt from college, because of student loans. I paid a lot of my way through college, but then, like my college probably cost me 250,000, including all the tuition, housing, and just miscellaneous, like all the crap you buy every time you move every year when you're in college. Like there's so much just waste. But anyways, so I'm over here like, man, I don't got 4 grand, I think I had $1,500 or 2,000. And to give you an idea of how broke I was at the time, as an entrepreneur, to be honest with you, I'm always broke. Always investing all my money back into research, experiments, businesses. But at this time, I was extreme broke, super broke. So, fresh out of college, the only job that I've ever had in my life, well, actually, I've had two jobs. Can't say that. But this was the only job I ever had because I had a uh worker, what do they call that shit? It's like work loan, It's like you work for like less money for the university, but then they give you like a grant of like a couple grand. But then I thought that shit was whack, so then I just quit. And then, um, but yeah, I'm just, super broke, working this minimum wage job. I worked for a few months. I think it was 4 or 5 months with my uncle. And he runs like, a huge landscaping company, and he's based at Hermosa Beach on the the west side of LA. And he makes tons of I'm not going to say the exact number that he makes, but he makes a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like his house is paid off. Guy owns like properties all over the world. He's been a huge inspiration for me, even though we disagree on lots of fucking things on how to run businesses. That's kind of why I quit. But anyways, great dude. As a family member, love the guy. Uh, it's like always in business, you can disagree with people, but you can still be their friend. You know what I mean? Like keep an open mind. So this homie taught me everything I know about landscaping. Um, or when I worked at my uncle's company, I learned everything I know about landscaping because essentially, I was working with him for multiple years, kind of under the table, not getting paid, just to learn about plants and stuff. But then when I actually had to work, obviously, as a worker, you're getting paid. They put you to do all this tough work and stuff, and it's like my first day in Beverly Hills. I had to work with my dad, because he also worked with my uncle, and then we split off and did our own company. But it's like essentially I was working with my uncle, and then you know, first day in Beverly Hills, like I fucking almost like collapsed because job is so fucking tough, you know what I mean? But I didn't want to die because my dad's there, so I made it through. I mean, that's a long story, but the point you need to know here is I think I was making like $9 an hour, right? So I'm making no money. I think my whole paycheck every month was like $1,500 for those few months. And so I saved like 2 months paycheck. And then I'm like, okay, I got like 2 grand, 3 grand, but maybe two to spend on this land. And then I go to my brother, his name's Felipe. I'm like, yo, Felipe, I need 2 grand so we could buy this 5 acre. You know what I mean? And he thankfully had the money. We bought the land. And how I told you, initially the guy wanted four. And then I negotiated with him, made him my friend, and we ended up, I think, getting it for 2,500 bucks. And me and my brother split that. And now we sometimes buy lots for 5, $10,000 an acre, right? So it's times 10 times 20 in value within only uh 8 to 13 years in different cases. Um, a lot of these properties. But the point that I was getting at, you know me, I'm always going on hella sidetracks, was that if I could do this in the desert, I could do it anywhere, right? And I was looking for cheap land close to LA County. I've talked with lots of people about this, but logistically, I was like, LA County, California, Southern California is probably the biggest market for agave spirits. Maybe a couple areas in Texas are larger, but it's one of the largest area where agave spirits are consumed in the world, and that's why they bring tequila, raicilla, mezcal, bacanora, Indian agave spirits. They bring fucking Australia agave spirits. They bring all this shit to LA because this is where the buyers are at. This is where the market's at. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna grow some native California Hespero Eucalypti. I'm gonna grow some USA native Destileria, and I'm gonna grow some USA native agave, some Mexican agave from my heritage, and we're gonna grow all this shit. You know what I mean? On this super cheap land, and then I could do that anywhere. You know what I mean? Like essentially, I could replicate this farm in the deserts of Oregon. I could replicate this farm in Utah, Nevada, any of the Southwest. A lot of what I'm learning here with the cold tolerant species, now I'm helping farmers on the East Coast, in the middle of the country, in areas where they get -10 and they get like 2 feet of fucking snow and they got agaves growing. You know what I mean? Montana, Woodbury, fucking whatchamacallit, Yutensis, Neo Mexicana, or Paria subspecies Mexicana. It's like all these dope species, right? And then I'm learning so much. And I realized I could go around the world and find cheap land that's degraded, like here in the Mojave Desert, how I've explained, we lost the pronghorns, the ecosystem went to shit. I could find cheap land, how I'm doing here, keep all the native shrubs, the grasses, the trees, put my agave in there, put my cacti, put my fucrea, or not fucrea, those are mostly in the greenhouse, sons of bitches. If you're over there in San Diego or Sacramento and stuff, grow some fucrea, man. If I was you guys, I'd have a whole couple acres of fucrea. They're trying to regulate agave. Put 50 acres of Fukurea. Fuck those motherfuckers. Fuck the agave legislation. Tell them to suck it. Grow some Fukurea, some Decilerion, some Hespero Yucca. Rebel, rebel, rebel. Fuck them. But the point is, I was like, all right, well, I could do this shit anywhere around the world. I could find degraded land super cheap, go anywhere, and just regenerate it. Bring in these plants into the areas where the natives aren't proliferating, grow them in tandem with it, and then, you know what I mean? You start boosting the natives, you bring in animals, you start boosting, the ecosystem, more carbon sequestration, water retention, all these different relationships start coming back to the ecosystem and you start regenerating it. You know what I mean? So now it's like, this shit is fucking dope. Anybody can do this shit. My farm is super small, but it's now provided an example to do this in any desert around the world, in any arid landscape around the world. You use me as a primer to do this in any forest around the United States, and I think that's something that's really, really beautiful. Um, but I know I just went on like a 20, 30 minute sidetrack thing, always one sentence will bring up a whole fucking thing, it sucks sometimes having ADHD. And then it's really good sometimes because it's like you get hella sidetracked, but then you learn so much shit, and then your memory is really good. So then you remember like 90% of it like pretty accurately, and then you're like, oh shit, you make all these connections. That's why I loved environmental science because, when you're just a biologist, you're just a chemist, you're just a physicist, you're just an environmental studies major or whatever, you just focus in your one thing. When you study environmental science, you study all that shit. You study religion, you study politics, and that's why I really love that. Like, UCSB is an amazing place to study anything, take any classes in environmental science. Quick plug there, right? Um, whatchamacallit? But yeah, what I was, the whole way I got on this tangent was just like, you know, um, India. I'm so jealous here. Like, I'm trying to find ways for us to replicate this thing that India's got going on because I'm just like, this shit is so dope. The relationship that India has between starting to create this market for small farmers to find profitable ways of selling this biomethane, of having the researchers work with them to get the data, to make sure, like I mentioned, don't blow themselves up, don't kill themselves or whatever, to do it safely, creating these biofuels. And then you have the government funding it, you have the organizations funding it internationally, funding this thing in India. All of that put together, I'm just like so jealous, and I'm like, we need this in California. And a lot of the problem that they're talking about convincing farmers in India um, um, to grow cactus. If we bring this relationship here, I feel like the California farmers will be more than receptive um, to doing this. You know what I mean? If I can get a little more funding or sell some more plants, whatever the fuck, I'll figure out how to make more money. And then I can bring a UC Davis, a UC Merced, a UC Santa Barbara, UCLA, whatever the fuck, motherfucker. And then I tell them, yo, bro, make sure I don't murk myself. Let's make some biofuels. You know what I mean? You do the data, and then we get some motherfucking NGO to sponsor us. Give us some money, and then he can pay for the researcher to keep his fucking data and catalogs and all this BS on the biomethane production. And then he makes sure, like I say, it's safe. And then as a small farmer, I can put my agave and my cactus into producing biofuels, seeing what biomethane, if we combine it with the animal manures, that could be a good start now going off of what India is doing. But we can make other biofuels too, if you do it without animal waste or in tandem with other different products, right? So the biomethane is something to jump off of, but it's not the only biofuel that could be created from agave. I want you to realize that as well. Um, we bring this shit to California, we're gonna blow this shit up. And what we're gonna learn here in California, India's gonna learn on it. Then it's gonna keep going in reverse, and it's gonna be something nice. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm making a lot of these podcasts because I want us to learn from what people are doing in India. I want Indians to learn what we're doing here, all this knowledge to spread and this stuff to get accelerated. You know what I mean? Like look at the Linux programming system, right? It's an open source software that is literally some motherfucker's little desktop computer in his fucking house in like one room. And because it's open source, thousands of motherfuckers working on this shit together to make an operating system, then it's amazing. It's competing with Android, it's competing with Apple's operating system, it's competing with Xiaomi, competing with all these different systems, right? So open source could be a great thing in advancing agave and cactus, not only research, but markets, products, knowledge, all of this shit. You know what I mean? Like I tell people, I'm like, talk to the Brazilians, talk to the Peruvians, talk to these people that are making agave spirits in Germany from naturalized agave. Talk to the people trying to experiment with doing this in Spain. Talk to the people making agave cucuy spirits in Venezuela. You know, go to Guatemala and see how they're making just bretti into different products and spirits. And go learn from everybody. You know what I mean? Maybe you'll find an agave or a cactus or a different plant, tree, whatever that you love and can help benefit you in your agricultural system. So let's get back to this the article. That way we don't make this podcast 10 billion years long. But this was probably one of the most interesting articles that I've probably ever read that has to do with cactus because yeah, I mean, like as I mentioned, you can probably count on one hand a lot of the biofuel projects in several countries, and it's like to have this much concentrated research and production of products, everyone needs to be learning from this. So that's why it's just blowing my mind the amount of shit that's going on right now in India on cactus biofuels. Like everyone needs to fucking be further learning about this, right? Like it's super legit, man. Um, let's go back to the article. Once again, like always, probably like a 5 minute article. Go read it yourself. Once again, Manga Bay, uh, or india.mangabay.com. And the title of the article is Experimenting with Biogas with from Cactus. So, yeah, going back to this article, they provide this really cool point here that said, you know, the bacteria is, from the cow dung, like as I mentioned, is what's inoculating and breaking down the raw material uh, uh, to make this stuff, right? But then they say these are natural conditions. These are their words. They said these are natural conditions. So it looks like they're just doing it, you know, like old school pulqueros, al aire libre, or freestyle. You know what I mean? In no controlled climatic environment as far as temperature or yeast or different bacteria. They just looks like they put the manure there and they stimulate it a little bit, and then they gave it a nice climate to prosper at. That might be varying in different productions, and then it's starting naturally to make this biomethane. But where they're going with this is they say they believe they could even get higher efficiencies by doing it in insulated fermenters. And this is something that, yeah, they're definitely going to get a higher efficiency, and it's going to stop a lot of this evaporative gases leaving that might be potentially going to boost their efficiency. So I think that's a great idea for them to experiment and pursue. And hopefully we learn a little bit from that as well. You know what I mean? Super, super interesting stuff, man. I mean, you know, in this next little piece here, they talk about how, they have a 1.5 hectare farm in Hingonia, Rajasthan. Once again, very sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, which I'm very sure I am, that they began this biogas plant on this farm in 2023. And then this, once again, talking American, because everybody around the world measures in hectares except us, the Americans. We're fucking, for some reason, weird like that, but it's all good. Fucking patriots, we're always on our own roll. So on 1.5 hectare is around three and a half, 4 acres. Let's just say for this example, 3 acres. It's 2.47, but I'm too tired to do the conversion, so let's just say 3.5 acres. So then on this 3.5 acre farm, here's where the shit gets real interesting, man. You know what I mean? I'm not a super fan of Alex Jones, but if this was an Alex Jones podcast, he would be like shouting in the air, being like, hella crazy shit at this moment. So they put the biogas plant on the farm. Do you know how groundbreaking this shit is? Like, they're having the researchers and the NGOs and the government people go to the small farm. They built the fucking plant on the farm. Logistically, couldn't get better than that, man. You know what I mean? Because everything is in one place. Everybody goes to one place. And obviously they got like 100 different plants, as I said, 100 different farms. They might be working with or more. And I'm just like, this is amazing because look, when corn is turned into ethanol, right? Sometimes they might move that to a different facility to process the corn into ethanol that's very, very far away, right? And then, all these middlemen, it just adds one prices like, carbon going into the air because of all these logistics, and moving all this stuff. So if you have the plant right there, they literally harvest this shit. Not as easy, right? Like I was about to say, walk it over, but they probably use some wheelbarrows and bring it over. And boom, they put it in the plant, start this shit. And here's where it gets even better. The inoculant in the cow poop, right, which is the 10% that they need to begin this biomethane production from the cactus. It's like that shit could be potentially coming from the same farm as well. If they're running animals and trying to feed them cactus and trying to grow all this cactus and agave and different stuff to trying to boost their native plants and stuff, right? That system, kind of how I'm doing here in India, would be like game changing because they got this biogas plant, right? Because then they could run the animals on native forage, the cacti, the agave. They lower their water, they lower their forage. Then, they're having that cactus, harvest go into the plant on the farm. You know what I mean? And the manure and the plant needed for this is on the farm. And then the researchers come to study agave, to study cactus, to study the animals, to study the biomethane on the farm. Amazing, bro. This is the type of shit we need to start doing here, man. Because everybody's all hell split up. We need more stuff concentrated. Concentration could be bad in lots of ways, but in this case, it could be good. So they're talking about how they didn't have a big enough biogas plant in the first area I mentioned, right? That's why they moved it to this Hingonia area. So looks like good news, like they're expanding and they're scaling these plants and farms, right? Because at first the way they were talking about it in the video, it looked like it was quarter-acre farms, half-acre farms, acre farms. Now they're up to 3 acres. It's like times, from the initial little baby farms, it's like a times 30 or times 20, right? In farm size, right? And then hopefully in another 10 years or 5 years, they're at like a 100-acre farm and a bunch of 100-acre farms, right? How they're doing it. 100 different plants, 100 different farmers. Dope shit. Um, So it has a lot of potential to grow there. I'm really excited what they're doing here. So they're doing pilots at bigger levels to try to understand how I'm mentioning a lot of these different relationships and stuff. Um, what do you call it? Doo-doo-doo-doo. Yeah, this is one thing very interesting that they're mentioning here, and then it's just like they say they're trying to increase the yield and biomass of cactus, right? By doing different various experiments. I wonder if those experiments are hybridizing them, bringing them out from seed and getting different cultivars, or I wonder how they're making that cactus more fit for fodder, actually. Yeah. So, not sure about that, but if they already imported lots of spineless stuff, what they need is high nutrition cactus, so they might want to start bringing in different spined cactus, and then you can still process them in ways to get rid of the spines or burn the spines off, whatever, because they might have different nutritional contents that can help with making the fodder percentages for their animals higher or greater. Um, then they go into the first criticization or criticism I have of this whole article. They say that they want to start using drip line and fertilizers in the soil to increase the cactus. Well, if the animal shit literally is the stuff that's being the inoculant for this biomethane production, um, why are they gonna bring in synthetic fertilizers? Like that's a horrible idea. Instead, bring in more animals, and then you don't have to bring logistically on semi trucks or whatever all this animal manure to the farm, right? So like you can get rid of that whole fertilizer shit by planting Palo Verdes, running animals, doing all these different natural biomimicry relationships. And then the drip line is like I almost guarantee how I've spoken about in various podcasts, they're keeping these fucking cactus low. Because usually when it's a drip line system, it's because the cactus has shallow roots and they're not able to maintain the water that they need in their pads. So the drip line um, is the way they get it over this. But if they planted shrubs, trees, kept the native grasses, planted different other Agavaceae family stuff, palms, fruit trees, all this different stuff, they would have less water evaporation, more ground cover that keeps more water in the soil, more water retention from when it rains. They would have, these different plants sharing water through their root systems and mycelium and fungi networks. But when you only have, even if how I mentioned, like the great thing they're doing 15 different types of cactus. Well, even if you just have cactus, it's a fucking monoculture of cactus. You get me? Of just instead of now one cactus species, it's a monoculture of a cactus family, which is like not as bad. It's actually a huge improvement, but it's still pretty bad. So it's like, if you incorporate lots of different species and lots of different stuff that's not cactus, then you're gonna have the ability to dry farm it and not use drip irrigation. Because if I could do this shit on 2 inches of water, I mean, I don't know what their rain situation is over there, but I mean, it's probably just as bad, like 2, 3 inches. So my point is, if it's working here, it could probably work there for them, right? Um, but yeah, they're trying to see the goal that they're doing this like drip line and fertilizer is to experiment to see how it could do better cacti for fodder, better cacti that maybe gives them more efficiency in the biomethane, better cacti for the 5 Fs that I mentioned. I kept saying 5 5s by the way, but I just realized that, but it's 5 Fs, right? And then, let's say it for the third freaking time now. The 5 Fs. What do you call it? It's gonna be uh, fodder, food, fiber, fertilizer, fuel. So the fodder, the animal food, the human food, the fiber, all these different fibrous products, construction products, the fertilizers, making compost teas and using it with how I mentioned I use it to make different fertilizers actively and inactively. Then the fuels, right? How Australia is using it for energy production. Then these guys are making biomethane in India than how other people are making biofuels in different areas around the world. Um, really, really interesting stuff, man. And, yeah, it's just that's why they're doing all these experiments, right? They're trying to improve on all these things. So while I disagree with the way that they're trying to reach these improvements of using drip and fertilizers, drip irrigation and fertilizers, I believe that the premise is actually a good premise. They should just do different ways of getting to that by using maybe permaculture, regenerative agriculture, and stuff like that. Talking with the Indian agave spirit homies, getting agave in there. By doing this, then they're gonna be able to reach these improvements, I think, much faster and accelerate what they actually want. Because I don't really think they care how they reach that goal. They just want to kind of get to that goal. So, yeah. So, they mentioned this is one funny thing that I've seen actually here. So they mentioned how a lot of farmers could care less about this cactus, but they have them as fences, basically. And this is really good, actually. I mean, you can have fire prevention. You can have, a slowdown of a fire coming to your farm. If it's multiple rows of agave and cactus, you can have the fires slowed significantly to if there are firefighters or any way of fighting this fire, it's slowed down significantly enough to where they can actually make a difference and save your property, whether it's a farm or a home or whatever. So everybody is the misconception. They're like, oh, agave stops the fire. What doesn't stop the fire? The like I give an example here in Altadena, the whole city burned down. The agave didn't stop the fire, even though people had rows of cactus. But the people had a bunch of cactus. Their property fared much better, right? And most of my cactus that were small seedlings or really rare hybrids that I made or species that I purchased and started propagating, all those motherfuckers got toast because they were in pots that got boiled them basically, and they were little babies. But huge agaves that were mature, like Americanas and some of the Mescalero agaves, a lot of these gigantic agaves like Mapisagas and shit, they survived. They're all over Altadena. Maybe lost like a lot of their leaves, look like crap, but they're alive. They'll come back in a few months. You know what I mean? I read this study about how in Mexico there was like a 300 hectare fire. Nothing compared to some of these big ass fires we get here in California. But they noticed, I don't remember, I don't remember correctly if it was 70 or 90% of the agave that went through. So the fire went through this whole region. 70-90% of the agave species that was in that region survived. All beat up like the Altadena ones. Bunch of them burned to the ground, came back from trunks. Bunch of them just survived in a bunch of different ways. The point is they survived, and a lot of them came back. Now the thing is, will they continue to survive, right? Because then they might, because of that event, now a year or two down the line, even though they look healthy, um, it might be not optimal time for them to bloom, or a whole bunch of shit. So that's where it could get a little funky there. But yeah, I think the way that they're approaching this by giving farmers different ways to get a cactus for free is the way to make this thing that the farmers believe is a joke, maybe them be a little more receptive. I kind of do the same shit here. I mean, like people order agave for me, and I include a few cactus, and I'm like prodding them with a little stick. I'm like, plant some cactus too, and they take the bait. They're fucking all getting, it's like a drug. I swear to God, it's like agave and cactus. It's like I sent a cactus to my homie, and this guy's just an agavero. He could care less about cactus. And then now he's getting addicted to cactus, researching all these cactus and all this shit. And then he's like, "Oh my God, this shit's that crazier than agave." And I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I know this shit's crazy. Like, I'm sorry I got you into this shit. And now, like, you're hella addicted too." But we laugh like we're laughing about it. We weren't being super serious about that stuff. But yeah, that's definitely how these Indian government and organizations are going to be able to get these farmers to hop online to this cactus farming. I think they will have some success with that in the future. So they're saying also in this article how their biggest issue right now is okay, they did the research, they proved the product, they got the farmers on it. So even though it's small, it's a small quantity. They got all this shit going on, right? And then they're just like, we need a bigger market. And this was what I was telling you here. Once you create the market, it's like, what I was talking about earlier. It's like you could protest and be like, every Indian agave or cactus farmer, like, we want you to do biofuel, blah, blah, blah. Like, start doing this, try to force it on them. Or you can create a market. You can show them profit, and then they'll just do the environmental thing anyways. So these farmers now are starting to try to work with the government agencies to make the government promote the use of this biomethane or this biofuel that's made from cactus and create markets within the different region within the country and maybe look for areas to export it internationally. I think this is a great approach, and if they crack this, finding the market, right? Like they already made all the plants, they got the farmers, they got the research, all this shit. If they crack the market, this is gonna be something that goes fucking everywhere, bro. This is gonna be, like we're in this niche community of agave, cactus, whatever. But dude, trust me, once billions of dollars, like this is why I laugh with people. They're like, "Oh, you're trying to copy Mexico and make agave spirits in California. Fuck you, blah blah blah." I'm like, bro, honestly, I could fucking care less about spirits. Like, spirits could suck it, dude. Like, I make that shit for experiments because I love it. It's my heritage, and I just like making funky shit that I drink. I don't even fucking profit from it. I don't sell any of it. Not that I could legally, anyways. You know what I mean? It's like, kind of just doing what the fucking founders of this country did, which was distill a bunch of the shit that they produced on their farms. Um, but uh, hold on, I'm getting a text. Come back. Yeah, what I was getting at is just I could care less about spirits. I just like for instance, I researched forever if anybody had distilled Agavaville Moriana. I only found indigenous traditional knowledge of people distilling it. My grandpa told me back in the day they fucked with it and distilled it. But today I didn't find anybody that worked with it. And I'm like trying to find like how do I distill this shit because it has saponins. Is it like Hobbley is gonna blow my shit up and mess with my still and I didn't know anything, right? So then I'm researching Agavaville Moriana and I didn't find like what I needed. So I'm like, I gotta do this shit myself. I made a spirit from it, only small batch. I liked it because I'm finding out like stuff like Hobbley, the Kerchoi not Kerchoi, what am I? There's another one that like Hobbley in that complex that I'm talking about that I forget the name of. But these saponin rich agaves, they're a little bit more bitter in taste. That's why people cut the fuck out of them. But then, I actually don't like it with the cuts. I love it. And then, so the point I'm getting at, I just did the Mariana. Okay, maybe I only make a few bottles and I drink them and it's gone. But I have now, you could say, once again proven back to the people what they could do with it, right? Because before people know what to do with it, they messed with it a whole bunch. It was known as a mole all over Mexico, killing it, right? And then people forget about this shit. And then nobody can tell me if it was distillable or not or whatever. So then I'm like, okay, it's distillable. Now I go to people in Jalisco and I'm like, this shit could be distilled. They're growing it. Now they're trying to make mezcales from it. You get me? One man's little baby experiment, even though it's insignificant. Now, what if people, this shit gives tons of babies from the bulb. So what if people grow this shit by the millions now in Jalisco and produce mezcales made out of well, the whole denomination thing is ridiculous and bullshit to me. I mean, mezcal is a term that we put on all types of agave spirits that were made in Jalisco from a dozen, uh, of, different agaves, and now they stole our fucking word from us. But when I refer sometimes to mezcales, I know maybe the Oaxacans will get mad at me. They get mad at fucking everything, dude. I mean, like, that's just how it is. So I don't think it's serious. But yeah, like all these mezcales were being made in Mexico, right? So it's nice to see that coming back, and I'm not the only one working with Agave Moriana, but it's like I'm glad that I played my little part in helping my own Jaliscan uh, uh, campesinos. What is this in English? Agriculture cultivators or whatever. It's like I get to help my own people from where I'm literally born improve their cultivation of agave by reintroducing them into uh, agaves that are literally native to their area. So here's the crazy shit, right? It's like my grandpa teaches me about Ville Mariana just by I'm showing him pics about it, and we're driving through town, and he's teaching me a little bit about it because I pointed it out to him, and he's like, "Oh, we cultivated that back in the day, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Well, he was teaching me about it. The point here, I don't want to tell you guys a super long story there, but it's like the point there is he was teaching me about it. He's from Jalisco. Actually, I don't know if he was born in Zacatecas, but point is he moved to Jalisco, was growing agave or whatever, from a young age, and then he's making all this shit happen, and then you know what I'm getting at is my grandpa from Jalisco taught me, a Californian, and yeah, I was born in Jalisco, but I'm also a Californian, so he teaches me. And then now a Californian's teaching the Jaliscan how to use their own Jalisco spirit. So it's like that's the craziest shit ever. Like that's why I tell people don't like make this a countryist thing or whatever the fuck. It's like, you know, Mexican agaveros can help American agaveros. American agaveros can help Mexican agaveros. Many of us are the same in both. So but why I got off on this fucking tangent? Everybody thinks I'm trying to take the agave spirit industry. Look, other people are trying. Let me get off this right because I always get multiple points in my head at the same time. So it's like people think I'm trying to take away the agave spirits market from Mexico. That is not what I'm trying to do. If I created an agave spirit, I want it to be something completely unique that would be on the same shelf as the Mexican agave spirit, like Raicilla, Mezcal, or Tequila. Okay, and the only way I'm gonna do that is not by copying what they got out there, but by doing something completely unique with new types of plants, new types of hybrids, new types of combinations, new types of farming systems, right? So if I don't bring my own twist, it's gonna be a whack ass company that's gonna bomb. And look, I agree with most of you Mexicans, okay? I'm Mexican, born in Jalisco, third generation agavero, but it's like, the principle here is that the monoculture that is the big industrial California farmers that are getting into the game, and they're gonna just be like the pieces of crap in Mexico that they're complaining about, right? Destroying the ecosystem, the aquifers, hurting the people, the environment, the agriculture, the tradition. Well, we're copying all the bad there, right? And I agree with you. They are trying to take your market. They are trying to create an agave spirit that will compete with Mexican agave spirits. But that's why I'm trying to educate people all around the world so that they make something that's unique and different to what you guys have, okay? Or what me as, because I'm Mexican too, so it's weird because I'm talking to myself, but you guys at the same time. But it's like, I, I- um, I'm trying to show people how to do something unique and different and learn from the Mexicans these regenerative systems, how I'm implicating here. And okay, maybe nobody grows ex agave for spirits in Mexico, and they got a bunch of it in this other place. I don't know where to, just for this example, in fucking Venezuela, and then they're like, all right, let's fucking make a bunch of spirits from this. Dope, man. Like, that's something that should be encouraged because then maybe that teaches Mexicans a bunch of stuff, and you bring this new unique spirit into the market. But why I mention that is, look, you Mexicans, small farmers that fear a loss of market by American, Australian, German, all these different countries agave spirits coming online. You need to realize if you help these farmers do it right, these agave permaculture systems, they're not going to copy you. They're going to have to do something completely unique and want to do something completely unique once they're educated, right? So I'm in agreement with you guys. I think we should battle a lot of the monoculture industrial agave in America and ban, the importation of massive, large scale things like people should not be able to import a 500,000 agave at any time. I don't give a fuck. I mean, look, even if somebody said, like a Mexican with $1 billion, just random example here, just decided to buy all the agave utensils and bring all of that to Mexico, that would be bullshit. You know what I mean? And to see some Americans going to Mexico and buying hundreds of thousands of Espadín and Tequiliana and bringing that here and doing the same exact cultivation of monoculture, you know, uh, uh, that they're doing in Jalisco and Oaxaca, I agree, it's horrible. We need to put a stop to this, and the only way we're going to put a stop to it is if us small farmers can prosper as well, right? So, we have a lot of small farmers as well as these big guys in California and Mexico, and we need to bring and make their voices larger, right? And that's why I'm trying to educate people through this podcast a little bit. What I know, I'm not a super expert, but I try to just help you in whatever way I can. And the point I'm getting here at, once again, I'm with you guys on this, a couple of these angles, right? Like, we have some disagreements, but in a lot of the shit, I agree with you. But the point that I'm getting at, I could fucking care less about spirits. The experiments that I do is more to help the agave community than to make me a rich billionaire asshole like the different foreign the different foreign owners of the tequila industry. And essentially, the markets that I believe are going to be the largest markets for agave in America are going to be construction, are going to be energy. Like if I remember correctly, the energy industry in America is about um $500 billion. Um that like the whole tequila industry in the United States is about 10 billion. You throw in or 9 billion, maybe 10 now, I don't know. But say you throw in all the different agave spirits, all the sotolas, and now you include international, it's probably like anywhere from like 13 or 15 billion dollars. Um, the industry, and then you say to yourself, I mean, the U.S. industry, 500 billion, homie. Times that by 50. You know what I mean? And then once again, this is just the US energy industry. I'm like, dude, biofuels and energy is what I think Kagawa is gonna blow up on, right? And that's where this whole like I went off a tangent, that went off a tangent, that went off a tangent, that went off a tangent. But the initial tangent that started all these tangents was that um India, if they create this market, it's going to blow up and they're going to be making hundreds of millions from these biofuels and biomethane and exporting and using this regionally and around their country. And then it's going to go global. And then people are going to realize they can make billions from this shit. And then you're not going to see it might be a good thing actually. Because what if all these gigantic industrial monoculture farms, they were the ones giving their shit into biofuels, into the energy? They're gonna make wax spirits anyways. We might as well make this shit go to energy or biofuels or fodder. You know what I mean? It's like fuck all that. These whack ass management systems that are doing monoculture. Like maybe that shit should go to a different use than spirits. Like my point is, everyone also thinks like the whole America versus Mexico thing. Everyone also thinks I hate industrial farmers or large farmers. No, there's a proper way to do it. There's also examples of 1,000-acre farms in Mexico that are doing this shit regeneratively. There's a thousand also ways they can improve, but they're doing it legit. So it's like that, once again, um, um, the energy industry is just gigantic. That's where agaveros should be in the United States and any country, I believe, focusing their energy more versus spirits. But hey, spirits are fun, but if the Mexican I always tell people because they think they're gonna get rich off tequila or agave spirits or growing agave, and I'm like, if you don't go broke, That would be okay. A lot of people they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're barely making money in Mexico. And these examples show you that you need to diversify not only the species but the markets. And what I just mentioned, the USA energy sector, but the USA construction sector is also gigantic, man. I mean, it's value in billions of dollars, is right up there with with the energy. Um, you know, uh, I mean, I mean, I don't remember if it's one or $2 trillion. See, this is why I love having a second phone because I'm gonna stop assuming or thinking about shit. Let me just Google this shit real quick. The U.S. construction market was valued at 1.77 trillion in 2023, projected to grow to 2.5 trillion by 2030. All right, man. Once again, the whole agave spirit industry, 13 or 15 billion dollars. That ain't shit compared to 1.77 and 2.252 trillion by 2030. And the 1.77 is 2023 numbers of the construction industry. And okay, sure, we're not gonna get the whole market, we're not gonna get all this shit. But look, if it could go into cement fibers, it could grow into non-structural concrete, like retainer walls, like flooring, like insulation, like roofing, like fuck, 1,000 different products, man. I mean, they think hemp is amazing. Like agave has a higher R value and structural strength from the research that I've been reading. And I'm just over here like, man, okay, just the energy in the construction markets. That's like $3 trillion right there, bro. Like $2 trillion currently. In 5 years, it'll be another trillion to three. It's like go for a piece of that because look, even if you're trying to make agave spirits, if you're a new brand and you think you're gonna get 1% of tequila, you're gonna get 1% of mezcal, you're gonna get 1% of these agave spirits. I mean, I don't know who your consultant is, but he might be kind of selling you a dream because look, it's very tough to run a business. It's very tough to get market share and to maintain market share. And there's a reason thousands of tequila brands have been made and hundreds, and probably now thousands of tequila brands have failed as well. And more continue to come out every fucking day that it's ridiculous. But but the reason this is happening is because it's so hard to get even 1% of that 13 to 15 billion dollars of the agave spirit market. Okay. Now, I'm telling you, it might be super difficult, but the bigger the pie, the bigger chance that your little small percentage, little baby, input into this market, right, is going to be able to succeed, right? Because your little baby percentage can take a percentage of the construction or the energy industries that agave could be incorporated in. Whereas you might not be able to take that in the spirits market because there's thousands of fucking brands. How many brands do you know of agave insulation material, right? That's making a agavecrete that has high R value and low burn rate. That's in many cases the way depending how you make it fireproof. It's like okay, these different products could be billion-dollar products on their own and nobody's doing it. So you're new to this other market that's gigantic. Throw yourselves into the fucking fire over there. That would be my opinion. But going back to this article, I'm the king of tangents over here. The article, now we're down to the last paragraph. Once again, 5 little minute article read, but you know me, making this shit 2, 3 hours. But holy fuck, I actually think this is almost 2 hours now. 2.5 hours. Oh my God. If you get all the way through this, you're a fucking G. But anyways, It's gonna be probably the longest podcast I've ever made, but this shit was so good. It's so interesting, man. Um, last paragraph of this article. So they say there's a bunch of lack of awareness, and let's see, let me read this real quick. So they're saying a bunch of animals are eating their plants, because their plants are getting this. This is something me and Natil, Texas, were talking about. It's hilarious. They're dealing with the same problem thousands of miles away on another continent. Me and my homie from Texas, that Texas agave farmer, Natil, Texas, my homie Chris, we were talking about this the other day on the podcast. Because we were like, dude, we are buying land and that we can afford in these super shitty ecosystems that have gone to crap because they've taken out the native foragers, the ruminants, the cows or whatever, like in his case, like in Texas. Um, and then, um, and the cows or the bison aren't the only animals, where, you know what I mean? The leopards have been lost, all these different um animals that have relationships that improve the ecosystem, right? So when we move in as farmers and we start trying to plant these beautiful ass agave cactus, they just get murdered, dude. If I didn't have a fence here, the jackrabbits would eat fucking everything. And they eat the roots, they eat everything. They don't give a fuck if it's a tree, a cactus, an agave, they'll eat it. The fence only keeps the jackrabbits out. The ground squirrels, go listen to some of my other podcasts. You have to make them your homies and make them your researchers, and but they're dealing with the same shit here, that the animals are eating all their cactus. So it's like cactus in my case, I'm trying to protect the agave. So it's my trap plant. So the ground squirrels, they eat a couple cactus pads. I'm okay with it because, they're aerating my soil and improving my ecosystem, and, the animals are legit. But the point here, that they only eat a few cactus pads. The cactus grows fast enough to where they can outproduce what they're eating. So it's a cool relationship, right? So if they only put cactus into this ecosystem, that's an arid ecosystem that's degenerated, and it's a nice little cactus, and dude, it's like you're putting a buffet of cactus out for these fucking animals that have been suffering and have no water and have this shitty ecosystem, right? So they're gonna be encountering some of the same issues I and my homie in Texas have, and this is where the polyculture comes in: the shrubs, the trees, the grasses, the animals. Other animals don't like big animals like the goats, the dogs that I run. So then the jackrabbits stay away, the coyotes stay away, the ground squirrels hiding all the time, right? And then, like the dogs might be on the west side, and then the ground squirrels go to the east side, but they're always moving. You get me? And that's bringing aeration to the whole farm. So it's like you could play with those different relationships, but the point is, if you have a very diverse farm or ecosystem type of farm, you're gonna have trap plants. You're gonna have these relationships where the animals become your helpers instead of destroying the baby plants that will lead to your prosperous cactus farm. So you need to put in baby agave, baby palm tree, baby olive tree, baby. I don't know what the fuck trees they have in India. Go find some natives and boom, put them in there, man. But that's how they can solve that problem. Um, Mr. Paul Sania, my bad. I'm always mispronouncing this guy's name. Hit me up, bro. I'm gonna fucking send this podcast to the news network and try to talk to these guys. Um, I think I can solve a lot of their problems actually that they're dealing with. But yeah, they say so the biggest challenge is pretty much how we've been talking this whole podcast, the market. They say how I just told you, I went off on this whole tangent. I should have read you this podcast first and saved you the time, maybe. But hopefully you learned a bunch of other shit there. Um, this motherfucker is saying the market is the biggest challenge. Now we're working on the market. We solve the market. It's just gonna blow up everywhere. And how we just talked about that. That's exactly what the fuck's gonna happen. And that's why I want to help them. I want to reach out to them and see how I can help them if they want my help. If they don't want my help, cool. I'm not gonna force my help on anybody. You know what I mean? But it seems they would be receptive to this because they already reached out to consultants in Mexico. They got plans from Mexico, blah blah blah. All this shit that I already talked about, right? So let's help these Indians crack the market, and then we can bring that market everywhere. You know what I mean? The same thing. We need to go help my homie Fabio Raya in Brazil. PhD agave biofuel researcher, fucking legit guy. Follow him on Instagram at Fabio Raya. Um, we need to help the Brazilians, Fabio. We need to help the Mexicans. We need to help the Americans. We need to help all these different people, right? If you want to, once again, going back to the Mexicans, if you want to get the Americans off of the agave spirit train, trying to take away your alcohol market, educate them on biofuels, on energy, on fodder, on all this crap. That way, they're not trying to compete with you in this way. What they're looking for is a way to replace the shitty piece of crap agriculture that they have in California. You know what I mean? The nut trees, the grape trees, monoculture, the bullshit system. So if you educate them on a good system management system, then they're not gonna want to do spirits because they're finding the easy way out. This is what I always talk about. I'm like copying Mexican industrial agave agriculture and trying to produce an agave spirit for it. As an entrepreneur, I think it's the stupidest fucking shit ever. You know what I mean? Like uh, regardless of your opinion on Peter Thiel, if you know who that is, he has a great book called Zero to One, talking about how monopolies aren't good for the consumer. But when you go into a market, you should try to monopolize as much as the market and not in taking market share, in monopolizing your market. So I'll give you an example. If you go try to produce agave tequiliana, you're selling a commodity. If you're the farmer, you're not gonna make as much money. If you're making the tequila, 1,000 brands, you're not gonna make as much money. Go like my homie that I'm about to have on the podcast in a few days. Um, He's growing an agave native to Jalisco, which is so fucking amazing, which I just have a couple seedlings of here and a couple small medium-sized plants. It's called agave valenciana. This agave is so giant, amazing, it's beautiful. And the point is, um, my homie was telling me about how he cultivates the Agave Valenciana, and he's like me. He's maybe experimenting a bit with distilling, but he's not a distiller, just like me. I did it out of convenience, and he's doing the same thing that I'm trying to do here, which is find a guy who this is his fucking passion, right? We do the experiments. Now we find my homie somebody like Jono or Don Manny, and find different distillers that can now produce these different agave spirits from different agave. So then the point I'm getting at here, say you take agave valenciana and you make an agave spirit from it. Or sorry, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but that guy that made the agave valenciana agave spirit in Jalisco that my homie gave the agave to, won a very important award for it, and everybody loved it. And everybody was like, "Where do we get more?" And he's like, "We don't got it no more." And then everybody, hit up my homie, and they're like, "Damn, when you start cultivating this?" And then, it started a little chain reaction of everybody wanting to grow agave valenciana and making a mezcal type agave spirit in Jalisco. And I'm like, "This is dope." But he could sell that at whatever price he wants, at a good price that allows him a profit. Why? Nobody in their fucking mama got a agave valenciana in Jalisco. One, cultivated, two, mature to actually distill, except my homie. So I was like, this is amazing. Now you proved the experiment. He fucking made it, improved on your experiment, made that shit a fucking God of Spirit that got an award. Now he's making good profit. Now he's giving you in the future good money for your agave because it's a rare agave, and he's getting the good money for the agave because it's a rare agave as a spirit. You see how everybody's fucking winning in this relationship? Don't go and try to produce a commodity. And going back to the same thing, it's like the only way this is going to be interesting for American or for Australians is trying unique new shit, man. And if that's anything that we learn from this article, we need to open our minds, everybody. Try a bunch of new different um, um, ways of management on our farms, different species, different things like this to improve our farm, right? And that's the main goal of this podcast, educating cultivators, farmers, nurseries, gardeners, horticulturalists that are working with agave and cactus and the Agaveaceae or the Cactusaceae family. And it's like, if we do this, people little by little are going to start improving their country's ecosystems, agricultural systems, um, um, ranching systems, and we can all learn from each other. And you know, this podcast, like I say it all the time, but it's like I'm tired of fucking hearing spirits podcasts. Like I actually love all the spirits podcasts. I probably listen to, for instance, like I would road trip like three, four different times, like every fucking episode, by the way. Agave Cultura by Ana Venezuela. If you speak Spanish, fucking amazing podcast. Listen to it like five times, maybe even more times over. You know, what's a brand new one? Let me see. Tasting Tequila with Brad. Fucking amazing podcast. I love the people he's had on, his perspective as a consumer, a gringo. It's amazing, man. Um, but again, all these podcasts that are great, they talk more about the spirits, man. Like to get these unique, beautiful agave spirits that everyone wants to bring and introduce into the world, into the future, going back to the traditional ways that we've been doing it. It's not gonna happen if we don't educate our farmers and get the agave in their hands to cultivate. That is all this shit that you want us to have, right? Because people tell me all the time, we need more agave jabalí, we need more agave jabalí. This shit is threatened in the wild in Mexico, okay? You shouldn't be harvesting for mezcales, for making jabalí mezcales in Mexico. If you're not cultivating it from seed or hijuelo or some shit that was on your land, that's fucked. That species is just gonna disappear in the wild, and then we're fucked. We're left without it. And the point being, why the fuck are more people not cultivating jabalí from seed all over, right? And trying to not only save that species, but the point. We will not be able to make jabalí agave spirits if jabalí does not fucking exist, or we do not have the population numbers to do both restoration plus spirits. We need to educate people, okay? No matter where they're at, if they're trying to save these rare agave species and allow them for in the future available use for spirits, for cultivators, for people maintaining their tradition, for restoration, for all these different fucking uses we always talk about, that's a fucking win for the world. All right. So, that's the article. I mean, holy crap, longest podcast. I've been speaking for 2.5 hours. I did this in two parts and one walking the goats. I'm sure this is way better sound quality the second half, huh? Because I'm sitting here just drinking a coffee and looking out my window as I put the goats up a little while ago. And but yeah, it needed to be this long because it was a really important article, lots of different implications and thoughts that came into my head as I was reading this. And yeah, I hope you learned something today. If you got any topics you want me to talk about in agave or cactus, feel free to reach out. If it's something I don't know about, I'll research it, talk to the people who are researching it or working on it. Um, make sure to follow me, Agave and Cactus Talk. Literally agave in like the in letter, not and like the little, because in all over social media, like YouTube and stuff, it's the and like the little sign. But YouTube or Instagram, they don't let me put a symbol, so I use N because it's the same shit. Agave and Cactus Talk, right? But follow me on Agave and Cactus Talk on Instagram. A lot of the IG lives are going up on video form now on YouTube. I'm gonna go back into my IG live that I did with El Tequilero 90 and get that video up too on YouTube. So if you want to see our facial expressions and how we use our hands and talk to each other and all these different ways, that's why I want to put the live there so you see us interacting live. Also, so if you're there and you have a chance to come into the live, you can ask us questions and talk and do all this stuff, right? So yeah, just follow me, Agave and Cactus Talk, on IG. That's the podcast. My personal profile is Farming and Gardening California. Follow the California Agave Alliance, on YouTube. By the way, if you're looking for the podcast, it's not Agave and Cactus Talk on YouTube. It is Agavero Californiano, and that's the username I use across Pinterest, across Facebook, across different things. And you'll find me as Agavero Californiano. The only place I'm farming and gardening in California is on uh, Instagram, and then on TikTok, I'm Agavero Californiano, all those different places. But wherever the fuck you're at, I mean, I never even used social media before college. Now I use it a bunch because all of my sales come from social media, a large majority, just the DMs, you know what I mean? It's crazy, bro. But that's why people are always like, "Oh, you're on IG a lot," and I'm like, "Dude, I like don't look at reels like, I'll look at reels like kind of as my TV when I'm at dinner or eating or whatever. That's why I'll go through the reels for a little bit, and then I basically don't absorb a lot of people's shit. Like, if you're not an agave or cactus like person that could teach me a little bit, I honestly could care less about you on Instagram. Um, but I follow a lot of people, even though I don't like interact all the time with their content or whatever. And I just want to show my support. But yeah, the point I was getting at is yeah, just follow me on all the different platforms, and y- y- um, I use Instagram to sell so much stuff that I'm on there all the time. Like I literally I'm working and I just stop for a minute or two, answer a bunch of messages, and then I go back to work, and then that way I'm always on Instagram the whole day, but only for very short periods of time. And then I have to do that or I'll just stay on the platform watching reels or some shit, right? Because like as a farmer, you gotta work obviously, so I gotta do shit quickly, and don't feel bad if I take days or sometimes even a week to respond to your messages. I usually try to get to all of them. I'm just saying that it's impossible, man. I'm one dude, so don't feel bad if I don't answer you for a while. But anyways, I hope you learned something today. Always nice time talking to myself. I was gonna say nice time always talking to you guys, but let's be real. I'm just talking to myself right here, and in the future, I guess I'll be talking to you, everyone, because you'll be listening to it. But right now, that's the case, and I hope we can all learn from each other, and yeah, go out there and kill it in agave and cactus, and be great agave and cactus farmers, and um, yeah, um, I think that's it for today. We'll on Wednesday. I'm not sure when I'll put this podcast. Actually, it might come in after or before. But on Wednesday of this week, I'm gonna have my homie Occidental. I'm gonna have Agaves del Occidente, my homie who cultivates a bunch of rare stuff, and we're gonna have him on the IG Live in a few days. So look out for that. If you're on IG during the time, come ask questions, come talk to us and stuff, and say what's up. Um, but yeah, I got another couple podcasts in the works that I'll be releasing. Agave and Dogs, a different podcast on cacti, Pizza Haya farming, and different things. But little by little, I don't want to just throw 10 hours of content at you every day. But I mean, I don't know if you guys like that. I mean, but I don't want to assume. But anyways, hope you have a great rest of the day, or if it's night, great rest of the night. And um, if you need any help with Gallery or Cactus consulting, you already know I'm the plug. If you need any plants, you already know I'm the plug. Fucking I hope this doesn't get flagged for like they think I'm like selling ganja or some shit. But it's like I'm just selling agave plants, Apple Podcast, AI, fucking inspector or whatever the fuck. Um, but yeah, I even if I don't have the plants, I always tell people I'm like, I know nurseries all over California, all over the U.S., and like, I got ability to buy bulk and wholesale and a lot of different things from all these places, and because I've known them for years, for a decade in some places, and 2 decades in some places. They're super homies and they hook me up all the time. So my point is, like, we all help each other, right? Like, when I don't have agave, they give me agave. When they don't have agave, I give them agave, and then we all sell money. That's where I always tell you, stop competing with your fucking other agave farmer friends. Like, find ways to help each other. Um, but yeah, yeah. The point there, sorry to go on a tangent at the end here, is that if you need plants, I got you. And I can find the people that have them at good prices for you. So yeah, have a great rest of wherever you're at in your day or night, and I'll catch y'all at another time. Peace.